Hi, my name is Andy SCHICHTER, and I'm the co-owner and producer at Park Sound Studio here in North Vancouver, and this is SoundProof. It's fun for recording. I think nothing beats that. It's fun, but for live, I mean, it's also just you're always worried about like carrying gear and stuff, and it's nice to just like have something in a little briefcase. So what got me into music production and audio engineering? I think it goes back to my childhood, just listening to albums a lot on like a Discman and an iPod, and just really getting to know and love albums, and just having a curiosity about how they were made. You'd listen to like multiple albums from the same artist, and just wondering why they sounded different from each other. You can hear the progression and maybe like the budget increase from like album to album, and just like wanting to know how that sound was made. How do you create different environments for sound and tones, and kind of like chase something really creative and tech based sound, like just noise. Yeah, with the head in there. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah, well, it's honestly I felt like the EQ wasn't like super drastic. I'll just kind of level it. Yeah. If we can do that, cool. Yeah, so my first experience working in a studio, besides just schooling, I was interning at a studio in Toronto called Euphonic Sound. So I did that for about a year, kind of going back and forth between Waterloo and Toronto, where I grew up. So did that for a year, and then went to Portland quite often to apprentice under this producer, Tucker Martine. So I think that was really my first, big studio experience, seeing like an incredible producer and how he interacted with artists, and working with like some of my favorite bands. So yeah, that was my first experience. I was already studying music, so got a sort of baseline of what to do, but still you don't know all how to listen to compression and play around with like different microphones and interact with artists when something is going well and not going well, and just getting a sense of the vibe and the relationship between band members and the artist and the producer and everything. One thing that really shocked me, like getting out into the real studio world, besides just being taught in school, I didn't realize how like nice all the like the really like good talented people are. I think just like knowing a little bit about like the studio and just hearing from teachers, it seemed like the producer to like assistant to like intern relationship there's a weird like kind of power dynamic and stuff like that, and just like getting out into the real world, you're like, oh, producers and everyone is just like so nice. It doesn't matter how like what level of experience you have, everyone's very respectful and friendly, and I had like a great experience just being like a young intern assistant, and so that kind of shocked me. I think I was a little bit surprised at how nice everyone was.
It's one of those examples where what the drummer is getting is not necessarily what is being recorded, right?
Oh yeah.
Because to me, in the room, that snare feels very wet and like almost too flabby.
Yeah.
But like within this it sounds fucking phenomenal.
Well, the thing about, I mean, like just with the close mics, it's like they're right next to the snare,
completely.
And then and also like lots of room mics, so it's like we're getting like a lot of that picture.
Hell yeah.
Not so much from behind the kit, but I feel like this just translated.
That sounds
stands out.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. So how do I prepare for a recording studio project? It depends on the project and the artist, like what kind of my role is and what their goals are. Um, Working with a solo artist versus working with a band is very different. Sometimes with a solo artist, you don't have all the instrumentation or parts sussed out, so a lot of pre-production, lots of trial and error. Listening to demos, figuring out what session players to bring in, that because that'll really help shape the experience in the song. Working with a band is a little bit different. Sometimes it's going to their rehearsal and hearing what everyone's going to play. You want to talk to them about like the flow. Are we going to kind of just go for a little bit more of a live off the floor thing? Are we going to do lots of overdubs? So yeah, every project's different. But it always starts with just like, picking out the songs that you really gravitate towards and you love and you're stoked to work on. That's kind of the beginning, no matter what. How do you troubleshoot technical issues? Turn it off and on again. So honestly, sometimes it's just that. It's just computer is acting weird. So you just restart the system. You're like, I don't know why that didn't work. Or it's a wrong plug or the power's not on. Honestly, sometimes the troubleshooting, like when it comes to like tech sort of stuff, it's as simple as you think. It's restarting the router. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to like retake stuff. Maybe the take wasn't the best, or you notice you can refine the tone a little bit. But I mean, if the performance is there, you can work around that. It's like it doesn't matter how good a guitar sound is, like a vocal tone take or a sound is. If the take isn't there, it's not there. I much rather go for the performance than the tone. So my approach for mixing audio and music, that I think that's one of the hardest things to learn and to become really comfortable and good at in regards to music production. Lots of practice, lots of trial and error, lots of tutorials, and just like practice, just like keep mixing and mixing. And luckily, like when you're starting off, some of your recordings aren't going to be like that great to begin with. So like you're kind of fighting those mixes a little bit. You're learning about like what you don't like in sounds, what you do like, and then hopefully you can start to correct those during the recording process. So the mixing just becomes easy. It's just all creative as opposed to like kind of troubleshooting and trying to suss out the nasty like frequencies and stuff that comes in bad sounding rooms or maybe not like the best sounding gear.
Peach, a nectarine, an apple pear is far enough from an apple that it's a better option.
Oh.
Like any other fruit that is a ball that you bite into is better than an apple.
Wow. What about a tomato?
Honestly,
Keep going.
the right tomato better than the best tomato is better than
Check
the
the
best apple.
patch.
Wow. Them's fighting words.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do the session ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you gonna?
Because I'm like the biggest Apple supporter.
Oh
I
no.
love apples so
Yeah.
much.
Are you really into apples?
Yeah, it's really part of my identity.
Yeah. You and Max.
17.
The apple baby.
Versatile.
How do I communicate with artists and musicians in recording sessions? I mean, talk to them like they're your friend. They're family. Like we're all here making music together. So try to keep it pretty light and open to any suggestions. Like try every idea. There's no bad ideas. We're all just throwing stuff out and record it, and hopefully it works. If it doesn't, no biggie. And yeah, I mean, like everyone has different communication styles too, and everyone is comfortable in a different way in a studio. So you kind of just feel it out. You kind of try to adapt to what makes them comfortable, especially singers. Where that can be kind of depending on the subject matter or just like how they like to sing. It might be kind of vulnerable. Some people want to be in a vocal booth. Some people want to be out in a live room. Some people want lights dimmed. Some people want lights up. Some people have to do vocal practices, and you just kind of work around what they need to get the best performance. So what I do to stay up to date with advancements in technology, I guess a few things. I mean, like you're always downloading, I guess, new plugins and trying new softwares and stuff. But I think for me, sounds strange, but I prefer to like go backwards a little bit. Get lots of like different analog gear, new guitar pedals, new preamps, new instruments. I kind of like taking care of that stuff first, and not worry about like new trends or advancements all that much. There's certainly like all sorts of digital plugins and software that you just can't recreate in the analog world, and I love that stuff, especially for just simplicity and just like ease. You can throw on something like Soothe, and it can do what I would do in EQ in seconds. So stuff like that's really helpful. But I don't know. I don't listen to a lot of like super modern like pop music, and I find that's where a lot of that techie like advancements kind of stuff comes in. I don't listen to a lot of new music. I prefer to like listen to the records I know and love and really like obsess over them and just get to know them really well. I just find I don't know, maybe it's just at that age where you stop discovering as much new music. I like listening to lots of local artists and see what they're up to. But in terms of like trying to chase every new band and sound that's out there, I don't know, I'd rather just listen to the same records over and over again and like really obsessing over that. How do I recreate the stuff that I really love? That's really important to me. Max, I'm putting this here so you don't have to look at Keith the entire time.
Thank
Yeah.
God.
Were you actually going to say something? I just totally derailed the whole.
When you said, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got that. So how do I prioritize, time management skills and keeping things afloat? Again, every project's sort of different. You know how much time you have in advance, and discussing with artists what their expectations are and what's doable. They might have, we want to record a certain amount of songs in a day. So it's like, okay, here's how we can do that effectively. Here's maybe what we should prioritize. So for example, today, the band that's coming in, they sent 4 songs over that they want to do. There's emphasis on one of them. So that'll probably be the first song to go, make sure we really get that. And then, after that, it becomes a little bit bonus. The main focus, because we're in, a nice room, drums are obviously the thing that's like most important. Guitars, some of that stuff can be like redone afterwards. Vocals can be redone afterwards. Still track everything live, but that was discussed in advance, like what kind of what the priority list is, and always do that with clients, but also leave some room for experimentation, because sometimes you're just chasing an idea that's like we're both loving and just that might take longer.
Ireland.
Ireland.
It was good. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
And then I fell asleep, and then I didn't fall asleep because I felt like I was going to disturb her falling asleep if I fell asleep for some reason.
What?
It makes so much
It was like
sense.
an hour and 20 minutes. What? Not even one time. We toured the whole country. I love them. I love them.
So we need to spend all day talking about Keith.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I know it's your project, but really it's
Mike,
Keith.
Mike,
Oh, yeah, this
Mike,
is-
when
Keith
is
is
that
the whole-
not a session with you?
Yeah.
That's
But if it's not Keith, then it's Matt.
Yes, exactly.
Do you know what I find? This is genuine. This is not a joke. I find most of the time if I'm hanging out with musicians, I find myself talking about Max.
How could you not?
That's
I'll
so
just be
nice.
standing there being like, "Have you heard of Max? Do you know Max?
Me too.
Max is the best."
That happens
You've
all the
heard
time.
of Max.
That's so nice.
He is the drummer, but it's always the focus.
I feel like he's missing half his chin.
I know. Yeah.
He shaved it for
Where'd it
the-
go? Yeah, I always feel like he looks like a fifth Beatle when he.
So my approach to different styles of music, I tend to stick to music that I know and love. But I mean, there's still like a range in that. Like it's all in the alternative rock, indie folk world, or whatever you want to call it. But every project's slightly different. Sometimes a song it's a bit more acoustic and minimal, and then other times it's a bit more aggressive. Like to me, that's still different. I do like miking and recording things differently for each type of sound. So like I don't always mic a drum kit the same way depending on the style. So I do enjoy that kind of manipulating all the wonderful gear we have to like suit the genre. Same thing for guitar tones and vocal effects and sounds. Are you going for something a little bit more rustic and organic sounding, or do you want to make it a little drivier, a little bit more edgy and cut through? And maybe that's a bit more of a modern approach. So for me, it's really just playing around with the gear and suiting the genre and style with that. Yeah, so successful project I've worked on. I mean, there's like every project for me, I really love. The first like huge project I worked on was a record by the Decemberists. I think it was in 2011, and I was stoked on that. They were one of my favorite bands at the time, and that was one of the projects I worked on in Portland with the producer I was apprenticing under. And that was super fun because we like did a lot of editing on my laptop. The idea behind that project was to just like get the band in a barn, bring in a bunch of analog gear, no computer, and then you kind of realize you need to put everything in Pro Tools a little bit. So luckily I had my laptop with me, so we were like editing on this like little like Mac Pro from like 2012 or 2010 or whatever, and so that was really fun and exciting. I felt like I was able to really contribute to that, and that record was massive. It went to like #1 on the Billboard charts, and that was my first experience into working on something like super big. How do I ensure the quality and consistency across projects? A big thing is getting good players in the room. If you don't have good players, it's really hard to like get something solid out of that. So I love starting off with like a great drum and bass and maybe some other bed track instrument. But if you're building a song from the ground up, getting like great drums and great bass sound and an awesome groove, amazing takes, that just like sets the foundation for everything. If you get that right off the bat, then everything else is easy. Max.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, cool.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
If you go onto her Instagram,
Can you hear Keith?
always.
Always.
Keith, stop talking.
In my dreams.
Okay, now you shouldn't be able to hear Keith. I muted him.
What do you need, my friend?
The kick drum.
Let's do it.
As always, the first. So how do I balance the vision of the artist and the technical possibilities? For me, after talking to an artist and knowing the gear I have and potentially the gear that they have, if they're a guitar player, what kind of guitar do they have? What pedals? What amps? Balancing that out with what I have, and then just thinking about it. Sometimes it's, I want to try this, or really like this album. Maybe there's a Sound on Sound article with the producer on how they recorded that album, and it can get some miking ideas. And it's just like once you start knowing the gear you have, you know kind of what each thing can do and how a preamp can interact with a particular microphone or an instrument I have. But yeah, every project's different in that regard.